Peter. Right. Yeah, he's the one that apparently had a sleep apnea problem that the doctor thought he was going to fall asleep while standing up. Yeah, well, that's what they said. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say let's give it another week, if you don't mind. All right. Yeah. Right. I think give it a week to see what goes on with Peter, because with Peter, what it was, he called me. The doctor was something. They wouldn't even make the appointment apparently because they seen that he had sleep apnea at one time, going back a few years ago. And then the doctor told him, or said to him, "Well, you could be directing traffic and just fall asleep." Well, that's not sleep apnea. That's narcism or so. Yeah, right. So he apparently said to the doctor, "Are you a doctor?" I mean, because of they're two different things. You know. So he had to get a letter from the clinic that he had gone to 2 years ago. He no longer does any of that with the machine or anything. And once they get that, they should clear him. So I think he said he was going for his physical either this week or beginning of next week. I forgot when. But yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, but you still need the approval, I guess, from your doctor. Yeah. Yeah. So what do we figure? We'll enjoy the holidays. After the holidays, we'll set these guys up. Now, all they need to do, if I remember right now, is come see you, get their ID, and then they have to be sworn in. And then before we let them on the street, we're going to make sure they have some type of an hour or two in some type of traffic training, hazmat or something. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. 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 Yeah. And yeah, I'm gonna watch the video and maybe put a small test together with it. Like when you go into a fall, I'll bring coffee to you and stuff like that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That fucking guy. So yeah. Yeah. I think right for one. Correct. Right. All right. So I'm gonna let these guys know that they're pretty well set. And should they just come and get their ID and get that over with and get sworn in? Okay. All right, so we'll train them, ID them, and then they can go get sworn in from there. All right. Sounds like a plan. All right. Okay. Right. Okay. Now Pat, he's the one that's like 20 years old. Right. I think eventually he's going to be coming over to your side. All right. I mean, I just think he's a good candidate for that. You know what I mean? He's young. He's ready to go. He's a workaholic. You know, Yeah, you may. They live over here in Branford. But he was going to school, I think, in Windsor every day, and then coming home and going to work at the P&A truck stop. This kid shows initiative, you know. So I don't think we're going to have him for long. I think he may end up flipping over you guys. Uh, okay. Right. All right. Well, listen. You and the wife have a good holiday. And I'll catch up with you Monday or Tuesday. Now, if you have any connection to getting, I uh, Mr. Murray to call me because he set me up, which was fine. So he was in a hurry. So he set me up on the computer that I was in the shop with at the time. And I want to do it on the laptop because this way I don't have to come out in the wintertime in the freezing shop to enter that in. So if I get him to call me for 5 minutes, because everything is done, I just need to be the computer in front of me to be set up. All right, so I mean, tonight? What's today? Monday. I'm not doing anything. All right. All right. Yeah. Because all you got to do is go on. Did you know the program I think called Screen Viewer? It's a program where you can get in and out of Windows computers. I have it on all my computers except for that laptop. So he didn't want to wait for me to install it. You know, he was in a hurry. So now I installed it. So now all you gotta do is get in and add a link and transfer it and we're done. So, all right, listen, again, have a good holiday. I'll catch you next week. Yeah, yeah. Dial the phone for him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We use two types. Actually, I'm missing two. But I run the rubber one. I got two of them with John and Joe when we did that not Elk Road. Because they were there for like 4 or 5 hours, so they finally left and left my two combs, thinking that we would retrieve them somehow. But they were missing them and they found it. So, yeah, we use the rubber combs, but I also have 5 pair of the collapsible ones, so that the guys can use those as well, you know, depending on the size of the car. Ah, oh, excellent, excellent. Good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Excellent. Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, because we have, like I said, we've got both, and, you know, for those who are using them, it's working. I appreciate it, Bill. All right? All right, so I'll see you Monday or Tuesday, and hopefully hear from, what I want to call him is, we'll call him George. My Joe has it. My first has it, so I can get a hold of them and let them know what we're planning on. Actually, I'm meeting with Joe tomorrow. We're gonna have a new board meeting at McDonald's for coffee. So tomorrow I'll bring it up and I'll make sure he gets hold of these guys for the game plan. Oh, okay. All right. You got it. Thanks a lot. Bye bye. Sorry guys, but I had to talk to the chief. So. Ah. I'm sure all departments are close or the same, but uh, our department is pretty decent. You know, at any given time, you know, other than this one guy who's supposedly overworked, um, at any given time, you want to call the chief, you call him. He talks to you, calls you back. You know, you bullshit. You know, I mean, the assistant chief. I mean, just a good bunch of guys. I mean, that happens with all departments because they're all, you know, it's a brotherhood. You know, but I've been in some departments where you want to talk to the chief. You better follow the steps and follow the chain, you know, or make an appointment. You just don't walk in on them, you know. Uh, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's professional, but he's a nice guy, and they're all nice guys like that. All right. Anyway, I don't know what's recording, what isn't anymore. Today is a day of confusion for some reason. This is somewhat done for now. I was going to leave it on here. I probably will. just in case. However, I did notice okay guys, let me do a run by real quick here. I'm going to start from the beginning because I've been doing a bunch of little videos, getting interrupted, doing 3 or 4 things, and it was just nothing but a ball of confusion. So let me start over from the beginning. And that starts with this. Now, I don't know if any of it recorded that I was doing earlier. It's the only thing I don't like about these little cameras. You really don't know if it stopped recording or not, unless you're always looking at it, and even then you don't know, because you really don't see the monitor, and the monitor shut off after a while anyway. Anyhow, this apparatus, this here, it worked. However, the cable did not work. Here's the story. The thing that I put together out there worked. Not a problem. The winch did not work. It's a 2,000 pound rating. I thought it was going to be enough to work the back of the truck, which in theory it is. If the winch, again, it was new, but if it was a good one. It didn't want to lift the van off the ground. It was just struggling a little bit, and we even got a little smoke out of it. So I said, okay. So my neighbor goes and grabs one of his snatch blocks. We put that on there, it lifted it right up. However, the cables were a little too long, so again, we couldn't get it just up off the ground. So I had to shorten a couple of the loops that I have that I snatched the bumper with. So I made them a little bit smaller. So I went out to try it, and it started to lift, but I noticed that I kept hearing like a pop, 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 and the van was jumping. Well, I noticed that the cable had some knots in it, if that's what you want to call them. Basically, the cable is around the pulley, and what was happening was some places it was like this, and then it went around again, you know, but meanwhile we have these. So as you're trying to lift, right, it's pulling, and all these are getting pulled tight, loose, and everything else, and I ended up with all kinds of mess because it wasn't wound onto the unit right, and you couldn't tell because they were all tucked underneath one another. So you're seeing a wrapping that looked okay, but meanwhile under that wrapping you got a nightmare. So as you're doing it, you're getting all these pops because everything is trying to straighten out. So I said, okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stretch out the cable. So I attached the cable to the bottom part of the fence, which is concrete. It's cemented into the ground. So I know I didn't have a problem with that. I attached it to that. It's hooked up to the back of the van. I put the van in neutral, and my driveway is on a little grade. Not much. Not much at all. I mean, if I put it in neutral, it may or may not roll. It's that little. You know, if I give it a little oof, it'll roll. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put it in neutral. I'm going to let it out with the winch. Get the cable out extended all the way. Get all the kinks and knots and whatever it is out of it. And reel it back in again. Right? With a little tension on it. So that we're getting a good wrap around the pulley. That was my intention. The van gets halfway down the driveway and the cable breaks. Ta-da! Is that going to bother you guys? Here, let me put that over there. Okay. Again, luckily my driveway isn't that steep. Otherwise, my van would be someplace else by now. So I said, okay, that's not going to work. So the cable, what was out, which probably was about 20 feet, maybe 25 feet, I'm looking at it, and even though it had tension on it at one time, but it broke, so now it's just laying there, it had a lot of kinks in it. I mean, it was kinked. Because when it was rolled up, I guess it was rolled up with these big kinks in it for so long and so tight, you follow me, that it was just kinked up and it wasn't going to be coming unkinked anytime soon. I would probably have to have a few 100 pounds on it for a couple of days to even think about getting it straight. But meanwhile, and as I'm looking at it, I'm realizing that the cable has a lot of breaks in it. Now, for those of you who know cables, there's multi-strands that make one strand, because the cable's made up of a couple of different strands. This is one strand, but this is made up of multi-strands. Right. And those little multi-strands are the ones that will prick you, and you, ow, ow, and then you start swearing at it. These little strands here. Well, if one of these is broke, I mean, that's going to happen. But when this one is broke, now you got problems, because you're taking away a lot more strength than if you just had one little one broke. And that's what was happening. These were actually broke. So you can tell here. See? Now, with that being like that, I said, well, this cable is really no good. So even if the winch was going to work, the cable would have never held up. It would have broke. Now, I wouldn't have been under the van, because even though I had it off the ground, I was going to put chucks under it, jack stands, this here way, and not even under the ass end. I was going to put them under the bumpers, because the bumpers on this thing is you can jack it up, twist it, bend it, flip it, whatever. Bumpers are strong. So once I got it up, I just have to slide it. So I would never have to reach under the van, so to speak, without it being on a stable setting. Because when you're putting the chains on, you're going to have your hands up inside the wheel well a little bit. And if the van was to drop, naturally it's going to take you down. But I wanted that. So I decided either I'm going to need a bigger winch, or with a snatch block, or just say to screw it. So I'm not going to spend a couple $100 to buy another winch. So it's basically screw it. However, I wanted you to know, and unfortunately I couldn't show you because I was trying to get it all straightened out so that I could. I was actually getting a piece of sheet ready to cover up all the bullshit I have on the van, so that I didn't let every Tom, Dick, and Harry see all my information. Because I got a lot of information on the van, so I got to cover the back up. And I even had the sheet. I was ready. But after that happened, I said, you know what? There's no sense in even thinking about it. So I said, screw it. Still, East Main Street. Doesn't say where. It says East Main Street. There still can be a number of things. There still can be a wires down, pole down, tree down, traffic jam. It could be a multiple. Let me see. Okay. So let's go back to that. But it just says East Main Street. It's not given a location as far as an address. East Main Street's a long part of town. Not unless it's up near the highway where they're working on it. That could be. Yeah, that's where it is. Okay. It's right under the highway next to Margarita's and the mobile station. Okay. It's not an accident, otherwise it would have said accident. So, could be debris in the road, could be anything at that point, but we'll listen. Uh, so, it will work, but you have to make sure that you use everything that's going to hold and work the way you need it to as far as weight and specs and stuff like that. I thought that would have worked, and I think it still would have worked if I had a new cable on it. But I don't want to even take a chance to put a new cable on it to find out that it may not work. You know, I would probably say after the experience I had with knowing the way it worked with and without the snatch block brought it right up, and that was like double. So let's say that's a 2,000, 4,000 pound winch would be fine. And if I use a snatch block with it, it would be even better. Okay, so I got to spend a few $100s to do that. I'm not going to do it. But the idea does work. You just have to make sure that you use the right stuff for the weight that you're doing it with. All right, so with that being done and said, I was out here yesterday. You guys know Big Gaz or Big Giz or whatever, G-A-Z, I think it is. I'm sure he's got a real name, probably something like Larry or Louie or something, but I call him Big G. He had showed the other day how to do a circle on a table saw. And I says, okay, the way he did it was different from the way I do it. You know, the way I do it, I think for large, because I'm limited for size, I think this way is a little better if you're going to do a large one. But I think his way, motor vehicle fire, it's on the highway. Okay. Now what he did was he built something, he built a jig of sort. And basically what it was a piece of wood, and then he had two other pieces of wood all the way across. I'm just using scrap. Well, here, I'll try to keep it as close to dimensions as possible. Now this piece of wood was probably about 2 feet by 2 feet, somewhere thereabouts. And he had a piece here and a piece here. He had a slice in it so it can go through here, you know, with a blade. Almost, you know, so it was a jig. And then he had it so that he had a piece of square stock screwed in next to the slice. So the slice, we'll say, was here. And he had the block screwed in something like that. Okay. So every time he ran this jig through, because it was off the track, it would cut off a piece. So he would do this. And he'd take off a little piece all the way around by turning it, because it was set with a screw, and then running it through. Turn it a hair, run it through. So by the time he was done, he had something like an octagon. Then he took it, and he took that same piece now that's round, and he came into the saw blade down here, sliding it up to where it just touched, and then he just started to turn it. And you're catching the blade right at the end. You can't catch it up here. You got to catch it down here. So you're not using the whole depth of the blade. You're just using the tip. And he's turning it. And I said, that's a good idea. And it is. The only thing I didn't like was when he was turning it, this being the blade, he's doing this. Well, this to me isn't safe. Because it, oops, you follow me? So that was the only thing that I seen that I didn't like. However, the idea is good. And the way he was doing it, you were able to do smaller circles. You know, if you wanted to do a 6-inch circle, you can get away with it. So I says, okay, I got an idea. Because right now, I have these holes in the saw, which you may or may not see. I drilled those in, they're about 1 inch apart, so I can put a hole through here, I can drop a screw through there, and I can gradually turn it with the blade turning. Again, bringing the blade up just a hair at a time, so it works a little bit differently. If I had another piece of wood, I would show you. I haven't got anything I want to just waste by cutting another circle. But at that point, that's how that works. So I said, wait a minute now. I can probably come up with something close. So I made this. This, and these holes that are here, I threaded these holes. Who's that? Is that Nicky? Hey, Nick. Let me turn this over here. I don't know if you can see these holes or not, guys. And if you can't, I apologize. On this side, I decided to thread the holes. And then I took these here and I made it so that I can just thread them in. So I can put this on here, thread this in, thread this one in to make sure that I keep it stable if I want it to be stable, and I can adjust it to whatever size I think I want it to be adjusted for, just by sliding it back and forth. And I can reset these to slide back further or closer. And if I take this one out, for instance, and move it up a hole, I can move this up here, and I can go up one more hole if I wanted to. So that's kind of what I did yesterday, and I did it on a video. So you see me do this whole thing, which I found it to be entertaining because I was trying things and showing you guys at the same time. So this works. The problem being that I had was, can I find it? Do I still have it? Oh, here it is, yeah. I took a piece of this cardboard crap and I tried doing it. I put the hole in it, I got the screw here, I epoxied that in place, it's countersunk, put it on there like that, and what I did was I took off one of these and I turned it and I tightened this down, so now when the blade came up, I was able to feed into the blade. And if I want to go a little deeper next time, I just loosen it, slide it deeper. The problem being is I was coming into the blade up here instead of down here. And this is what I was getting, because the blade was cutting here as well. Okay? And that's how you got all that scatsad there. All right. So by this being here and being higher, I have to make sure that I come in where the blade drops. I can't come in up here because then I get this. So this will work. However, I got to modify it just a little bit. And what I mean by that is I am probably going to take the router. Let me take these off. And maybe put another channel like this, but maybe like this, you know, and maybe even another one over here, just to have it there. This way, I would be able to do this and still keep this one at a pivot point, still keep this one in to hold it down, but still have the option of turning it. You follow? Because I really shouldn't have to turn it any more than that anyway. Because you're going to be turning this, and then I'm going to be spinning it on here. So here, turn, back, turn, 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 turn. You follow me? So I think this is still going to work. Same principle as the one that Dodge used, or Big G. Just it looks a little different. But for larger ones, like this, just by putting some holes in your table saw, believe it or not, will let you cut these. No jigs, no nothing, just a couple holes. Now you don't even have to thread the hole. Just make sure that you have something to use so that when you put it through the center and into the hole, that there isn't a lot of play, because you want it to kind of stay as firm as possible so that you don't have a lot of slop in it. All right? And that's how that works. So now, when I was talking about, I think I got a problem with my computer, but this is all related. The computer in the house, about 5 or 6 months ago, it just seems like it was running slower than normal. So I said, well, what the hell can this be? You know, I mean, is it a possibility that my antivirus isn't doing its job, or, what's the story here? So I forgot what it was I used to use. I still use it. I just don't remember how it's called. Hold on a minute, guys. I can't remember what the hell it is. I see it. Something Pro. Hitman Pro. I use Hitman Pro, and I also use, I can't think of it, which is not a bad program at all. So I'm saying, I don't know how or why I even got that. I mean, I couldn't have a virus. It doesn't show anything, or any malware or anything. But anyway, anything's a possibility. However, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I go to load in some video, and it tells me my hard drive is full. No more room. I go, how can that be? I got a 1T hard drive, for crying out loud, and I don't have any more in that one than I have in this system out here, and this has only got a 500 in it, and I got plenty of room. And they're almost cloned. They're almost identical. Except that I don't do any YouTube or anything, or Facebook on this one out here. But there are videos in there. So I'm thinking, what the hell is it? Well, I'm looking around, and there's an icon on the bottom corner that I didn't notice before. It says index location. And I look in that index location, and I am seeing every video, every piece of software, every document, every picture that I even looked at, viewed, or saved. And some that I didn't even save are all in there, and it used up my whole hard drive. So I'm thinking, okay, I guess I'm going to have to go get another hard drive. But if I get another hard drive, it's only going to do the same thing. It's going to fill it up. So what do I do? Now, again, I really don't know, so I'm asking at the same time. Now, I go to Staples, and I'm talking to one of their so-called gurus, which are basically part changers. They know how to change a part, they know how to load a hard drive. But other than that, they're really not computer people. There's 2 of them there. I started talking to them. One of them says, I don't know, and he walked away. The other one says, I got it covered. Okay, what's this index thing? He goes, well, everything that you do, Windows throws it into an index, so if you need it again, you can get to it quicker. I says, yeah, but it's throwing things in there that I don't even have or care about. I mean, it's saving things in there. I says, is it taking up space? He goes, no, as a rule, it's just like, it's just there, so that if you click on it, like cache. I says, all right. I said, so I can delete this then? He goes, yeah. He says, I wouldn't recommend it because, there's certain things that you may want to see that it's going to work slower until it adds it in there again. Again, like a cache would do or something. I said, well, there's videos and movies in there that I don't care about, So I went through it and I started deleting some videos and some other, what I think would be crap. And the next thing I know, I just dumped out 300 or something or better. I guess it's gigabytes or whatever. So now I'm down to like 600 or 700, which is great. Now I'm no longer in the red and I have room. So I'm saying, well, this is good. All right, the computer was still working. So I said, you know what? Let me take the rest of it out of there. So I started taking the rest of it out. Well, I went and I downloaded all the crap off the camera into my video directory. Now that the computer's clean, and I've got like 700 left, so whoa, we're back to like where it's supposed to be. This one here, like I said, it's got 500 in it, and I believe I'm using about 320. And the other one in the house, like I say, it's about the same, but the one in the house may have a little bit more on it. So anyway, okay, let me go into Filmora and edit some of these videos. I go there, none of them are there. All the videos that I saved in my video file, and I save them a month at a time, and then I delete them. All right, like for instance, I save one, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and when the month rolls around, when I get to one again, I delete the one, and then I put the new videos back in for that one, day one. So it's always rotating. So I never really have any more or any less. Well, the whole month, the whole video, it's gone. There's not a video anywhere. I lost everything. I said, oh, okay. So what is it that the computer's doing in there that's different from every other one that I have? My laptops aren't doing it. My wife's laptops aren't doing it. The one out here isn't doing it. None of my computers is doing it except for that one. The one that I use all the time. And again, I don't have a lot of crap in there. But for some reason, it's saving everything into the index location. And it's not just saving it as a file, so when you click on it, it brings you to it. It's actually saving the whole file. If it takes up 2 gigabytes, it's saving a 2 gigabyte file, as so. And that's what it did. It ate up like close to 700 gigabytes, I guess, megabytes, gigabytes, whatever it was saving it, and it was in there. Now I do have my saved folders, my downloads. When you save it, it goes into downloads. Like I say, all these other ones work fine, and that's the way I work them. That's the only one that I have that damn file in that's screwing me up. And apparently, like I say, the Staples guys, yeah, I'm a computer expert. Yeah, okay. You know what you can do with that hand? Wipe your ass with it, because that's all it's good for. Anyway, at that point, that's where I'm at. So what I'm thinking of doing, I don't want to just format the hard drive, which I'm going to probably end up doing, because I swear there's got to be something in there. I just don't know where to find it. And my systems are not finding it anywhere. So, and I'm not going to bring it over to Staples, because they don't know what they're doing to start with. Now they don't know what they're doing, and I'm paying them for it. But what I'm thinking of doing is buying a new 1 TB or terabyte hard drive. I'll probably get the newer ones out there, the electronic ones or whatever, because they are a lot faster. I have one of those in my laptop, and I'll make that my main drive. However, what I'm thinking is putting that in right now as a second drive. As a second drive, I'll take some of my files that I need. Well, actually, I don't even have to do that, because the files that I have and I need are not that much. And my programs are not going to work once I move them to the other drives because of the timestamps. So, I'm thinking about taking this 1T, putting it in place of the one that I have, which is not going to solve the problem. If I still have the problem, it's going to do the same thing. However, if it's a new hard drive, if there's something on it that's making this happen, it's not going to happen. Then I'll just format the other drive, the one that's in there now, and use that as a backup drive. And that's about it. So I got to think about it here, because they do have a new, and it's been pretty good reviews the way I understand it, because I've talked to a few people about it, and when I say it's a Samsung, do I have it? No, the information's in the house. It's a Samsung 1 terabyte internal drive, solid state, $140. And when I mentioned that Samsung 1 terabyte, like when we had coffee, I was talking about, oh, that's a good drive. Well, that's a good drive. So, and a couple of the stores, oh, that's a good drive. So, it sounds like it's a good drive. I'm going to look it up on YouTube just to see what they have to say about it. And if that's the case, I'm just going to order it. And a couple of my programs, I have to uninstall them. Otherwise, they won't let me reinstall them. So I have to uninstall it. I can't just format the drive until I uninstall some of these programs. I guess when you uninstall it, it identifies to them that you uninstalled it so that you can reinstall it, because you only have one license for it or something. I don't know. All I know, it's a pain in the ass. Naturally speaking, Dragon, they're one of them. Now I use Revo uninstall. If Revo uninstall goes to a program that I want to uninstall, it'll go to their uninstall first and uninstall it through the program's uninstall. Then it'll look for any residue, left over, and take that out after. So that's how that works. So, all right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Sorry you missed out on all the exciting videos yesterday. Yesterday was more confusing than today. But at that point, that's where we're at. I think, let me see, unplug you here. Are we still recording? Yeah. Let me